So I got laid off today due to a company restructuring. This was not in my bingo card for my Tuesday.
So I think I'm being laid off from my job today. If you couldn't tell by my appearance, I have been crying all morning. I haven't even had my meeting yet. We will see. Maybe it'll be something positive. Maybe I'm not getting laid off. I've loved my time here and I'm very thankful for it, so I appreciate it.
Whatever happened to those day in the life working in tech vlogs?
Girl, what you mean? We all getting laid off, boo.
Or you're an employee like me who, thank God, I made it through the layoffs.
So I just survived another layoff office and I was like, why is it so empty today? And then lo and behold, I opened my laptop and read a few emails and then I figured out why. I just got off a call with my director that I am safe. But that, like, all being said, I think I'm just so used to layoffs at this point.
I was one of the thousands of federal workers terminated this weekend. Let's talk about it. Am I surprised? No.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Samantha and I make videos on whatever I want. But today I wanted to talk about something that a lot of us in America have been going through over the last few years, way too often, way too many times: getting laid off. And me personally, I've been laid off not once, not twice, but 3 times. And let me tell you, each time definitely hit different. Each time definitely got easier, but one thing they all have in common is that they all sucked. They sucked, I cried, I bounced back. I wanted to talk about this because I saw this video that was recommended to me on YouTube, and it was this lady showing her experience getting laid off in real time, and I felt her.
Hello.
Hey, Saman, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Made the difficult decision to restructure the XD org, and as a result, reduce the size of the org. And unfortunately, you're impacted by this change. So your last working day is today, but the good news is you'll be paid through February 2nd.
I have already cried today. I'll probably cry more. Yeah, so I got an email like an hour ago that said, "Hi, I'd like to get together and share an update on our organization and what this means for you." So yeah, I already knew that this was coming. At first, I thought that like maybe it wouldn't just impact me because someone else mentioned that they got the same email. But I reached out to that person and I was like, "Does your meeting start at 12? And she said, "No, my meeting starts at 12:30. So when she said that, that's when I had my breakdown and that's when I started crying. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I do have savings, thank God, but like, I don't know what I'm gonna do if it takes months to get a new job because I still want to remain in tech. I still want a remote position, which those are harder to come by now. And like, I don't know what I'm gonna do if I can't get another job."
From hearing that she was getting laid off, questioning why, being comforted that it wasn't a performance thing and that it was more so like budget cuts or corporate something going on, to her saying that she definitely had a couple of breakdowns, worrying about what she's gonna do. Yeah, I feel all of that. I've been there and it's definitely a lot, and I honestly don't wish that on anyone. Like, losing a job really sucks, especially when you're not prepared for it. And let's be real, most people are not prepared. Most people in America don't even have a safety net of a savings. Most people don't even have $1,000, you know, just in case of emergencies. So in her case, she was good. Like, she was fine. And in my case, I was good too. Like, in every case, like, thank God, like, I was never in a situation where I would have been not able to pay for things. I was never living on my own. So it worked out for me and it works out for a lot of people, but it's definitely not the same case for everyone. I won't get too deep in her story, but I definitely recommend watching it if that's something you resonate with or you're just interested, because I was like, wow, like, I feel her. But yeah, the job market right now is total trash, total garbage. There's no good jobs out there. Some companies are posting fake jobs just to look like they're growing, but they're really not. Like, they don't actually intend on hiring anyone in that position.
Have y'all heard of ghost jobs? I was just watching a CNBC expose, and they talking about people is posting jobs on LinkedIn that are not real openings. They just want to keep it looking like they're growing for shareholders and just for aesthetics. Are you kidding me? I think that should be illegal.
Because some companies will post job postings and actually have zero intention of ever hiring for them. This is called ghost jobs, and 3 in 10 companies do it. It's completely legal. Here's how you're going to spot these ghost postings and avoid them like the plague. First, and maybe the most obvious sign, is how long the posting has been up. This one, for example, has been reposted 2 weeks ago, not just posted initially 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago in this job market is a very long time, especially considering there are almost 2,000 applicants. You're telling me that in this competitive job market, this whole time you haven't been able to fill it? The second way you're going to spot these ghost postings is to cross-reference between LinkedIn, Indeed, and the company website.
In a survey, 60% of hiring managers actually reported to leaving job postings up for more than a month for a number of reasons. Maybe they want to give the impression a company is still growing. Maybe they want to continue to collect resumes in case a current candidate doesn't work out. And some even admitted to using it as a scare tactic to motivate current employees because they think their job is at risk. Here's what you can do to avoid applying for jobs that are not going to go anywhere. Speed is honestly the best way to get to real job opportunities. Be the earliest applicant you possibly can by setting job alerts, filtering for jobs that are posted recently, and avoiding any postings that have been up for at least a month. Before you start any applications, cross-reference that job to the company's website. Look for any layoffs news or check for a company's name on layoffs.fyi. If you are seeing news about recent rounds of layoffs and they still have job openings available, chances could be high that they're not hiring, or they could have really bad hiring practices and you might want to just avoid them anyway. You can review feedback on Glassdoor or Blind for complaints of ghost jobs, and be careful for actual scams that are preying on your finances or trying to steal your personal info.
So there are just corporate layoffs left and right, and obviously we've seen this a lot since the pandemic in 2020. My first layoff was actually during 2020. But yeah, we're seeing this trend of layoffs a lot in tech and a lot of big corporations, even like smaller companies. We're just seeing layoffs everywhere. So I just want to say, if you're struggling to find a job or you've recently been laid off, I see you, I feel you, I know you're discouraged, I was you at some point, and I just want to share a bit of my experiences and a few tips, I guess. There's no real rhyme or reason to navigating this job market, but there are a couple of things you can do to kind of better position yourself and encourage yourself, because it's not the end of the world if you get laid off. Like, it really isn't. Layoff number 1, COVID cut. It was due to the pandemic. That was actually my first big girl job after graduating college. So I graduated in 2019 and I got my first big girl corporate office job at the end of me graduating. So by the time the pandemic hit, I'd already been working there for a year, and it was a great company. I loved it. In hindsight, I'm like, there were definitely some things they could have done better, but it was my first job out of college. It was great. I loved it. I was not planning on leaving anytime soon. I was thinking about maybe seeking more opportunities, but I wasn't trying to go, especially in the middle of a pandemic. However, the company that I worked for was in the travel industry, specifically cruising, and cruising shut down. I think the travel industry was hit economically speaking before a lot of other industries. Like, obviously the whole world kind of shut down, but travel was on high alert from like December 2019. Like, we started hearing about it. January, we had to start canceling certain trips that we had for customers and stuff. And then by February, March, full-blown COVID. And in March, that's when like most states, cities shut down entirely. So I transferred to working from home, but the company was honestly hanging by a thread. I was a marketing coordinator and I was new-ish. Like I said, I'd been there for a year. So I kind of had a feeling that I might be one of the first to go because I wasn't as tenured. I probably wasn't as valuable because I was new. I was new to my field in general, so it's not even like I was new to the company, but I was just new, period. So I could assume for them to stay afloat at that time, they would have to do a layoff. However, they did a great job easing into it. They furloughed first. So furloughed, I don't know the exact definition of it, but essentially they had us work the same hours but for less pay, which is crazy. But that was like kind of the only way they could really keep us on, is like, you know, still producing as much as we need to produce, but work for less. And then I think they actually did cut our hours. Like, it was a salary job, so there was no clocking in or clocking out, but I think they cut our hours somehow, maybe by like a few hours a day or something like that. And after being furloughed, I think there was like a certain period of time off or something. I don't know what they was doing, but long story short, by the time it was August of 2020, no more. I was done for. So I could appreciate the effort that they put into trying to keep everyone as long as they can, but eventually they just couldn't. And honestly, that was a total train wreck. The next few months of my life were absolutely miserable. Not just for that, there was a lot of other things going on in my life. So yeah, 2020 was not a good year for me. Fast forward, I did end up getting a job December of that year, glory be to God. But I had to take like a slight pay cut from what I was making at my previous job, but I didn't really care. I just needed a job, I needed to pay my bills. I was still living at home, but I still had bills, like, you know, car payments, phone bill, things like that. So I needed money. And it was hybrid, so it was like I was working from home. I got to be in the office a few days, so I liked it. It was going good for me. Layoff number 2. This one hurt, but for different reasons. So that job I told you that I took a pay cut for, I ended up leaving that one for another company, which is totally trash, but I left it for another company, and that company was paying me more. Long story short, I ended up having my baby. So I was pregnant from 2023. No. So I was pregnant 2022 going to 2023, had my baby in February, and took my maternity leave. I come back, I kid you not, within a month, I'm getting laid off. I get a call, they're like, oh, company performance or whatever, which wasn't surprising. I'm honestly surprised I was even there that long, because that division of the company was not doing well whatsoever. So I wasn't surprised, but it was just the timing of it, because I was just coming back to work after having my child. So I don't know if that was why, or while I was gone, they felt like I was disposable, or if it truly was just company performance. I don't know. Like, I was already stressing a lot as to how I was gonna balance motherhood and working. So to come back and kind of feel like, oh, we don't have a place for you anymore, was, yeah, it was a little hurtful. But what truly made it stressful was the fact that my family was about to move. We were about to move to a whole nother city with no support. And yeah, that was not a good time for that to happen. So essentially my fiance, he got a really great job opportunity. And we were like, okay, let's make this move. Like, it sounds like it's gonna be good for us. Like, it's gonna be hard, but you know, we'll be fine. And literally in the middle of that, layoff. And I was like, wow. And after that, I didn't work for months. Like, the job market was really bad that year. Like, I think 2023, I don't know what was going on. And since then, it seems like it's gotten worse. But I remember, like, I was struggling to find anything that was worth my while. At the end of the day, there are jobs everywhere, so obviously I could probably get hired somewhere, but would it be somewhere that would be worth it, you know, considering like my background, my experience? I don't know. And then on top of that, it's like sometimes when you start working somewhere, you get comfortable, so it's like you're not as pressed about still looking and interviewing for jobs. So it's like, okay, you want to get something that's going to be stable, that you're going to stick with, even though it's not perfect, but something decent enough. And I just couldn't find it. And on top of like postpartum emotions, hormones, I'm like, this is not the time. But you know, everything happens for a reason. Moving on to layoff number 3, I ended up getting hired a few months after that second layoff. So I'm like 6 months postpartum, I think, at that point. And I'm like, okay, whatever, like, let me really try to get something, you know? And I did get something, but something in me knew that was not the job for me. I don't really remember applying for it because I applied for so many jobs, but I remember interviewing for it and I'm like, oh, this seems decent. But it really felt like a job that I would have taken like a few years prior, not now. But I was like, okay, whatever, like, let me take it. It's something for now. I can still continue my job hunt while I'm still working there. It should be fine, even though I really don't have a good feeling about this place. And it's not even just that I didn't have a good feeling about it. I saw the Glassdoor reviews and they already experienced layoffs at that company. So I'm like, that's a red flag. Any company that's had layoffs within the last year or two, I feel like is a red flag, because who's to say that they might not have another one? But I had nothing to lose. So I'm like, okay, let me just take it. If I get laid off, I've already been laid off. Like, what's the difference? So I took it, and I kid you not, within a month and a half, boom, layoff. Like, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. Granted, there were signs. Again, the Glassdoor reviews, it was a little sketch. People was talking about layoffs, the company wasn't that good, leadership was terrible. So I'm like, okay. But while I was working, I noticed that me and my boss didn't mesh the best. I think her management style didn't really mesh with my work style. Not in a bad way, it's just, it was clear we were two very different people or whatever when it came to like how we functioned. But beyond that, maybe a few weeks into my role there, my boss comes to me and says like, oh, we're cutting the budget on this thing that I was supposed to be in charge of. And I'm like, okay, well, that's like a big portion of my role here. If you're cutting the budget on that, what do you want me to do? Like, there were other things a part of my role. That was a big portion of it. And I hadn't even gotten fully like trained on it or briefed on it. So I'm like, why am I here then? Within a week or two, boom, I was gone. But I didn't really care that much because, again, I didn't really want to work there and I had already been let off for a good amount of time. So I'm like, whatever, back to the drawing board. And they had a great severance package. Even though I barely worked there, that severance. But it was also comforting to know that I wasn't crazy when I was feeling hesitant about the job. I was just like, something is telling me, like, the Lord has put it on my spirit that this job is bad news. But it was also a blessing in disguise. So I felt bad about the job, but it worked out for my good because the severance package was like a nice, you know. But by that point, I was very frustrated because I'm like, again, like, why do I keep getting laid off? And I also appreciated that I got more time with my baby without me working. So I think everything really did happen for a reason in that case. So fast forward a few months after that, I got a job at a company that I really did want to work at, and God came through and I'm there now. And I'm actually very happy with this company, very happy with the leadership, very happy with my team, very happy with my role. Everything, boxes are checked off with this new job that I have. And I feel like this is a blessing that definitely would have been blocked had I still been at these other companies. Like, everything has led me up to this. So I feel like that is something that I do appreciate, because I can reflect and think like, wow, if I wasn't let go from that company, would I still be there? Or would I have moved on to another company that I would have been unhappy with? Like, everything has worked together to lead me here, and I'm very grateful for that. But overall, like I said, the job market right now is so bad, so hang in there. Like, people are having to do a million rounds of interviews. There's so many corporate budget cuts, corporate greed, politics, lowballing on salaries. Like, a lot of things are coming into play, which is affecting the job market. The economy itself is really bad. But I do have a few tips to kind of help navigate this. Take all of it with a grain of salt, because like I said, there is no rhyme or reason to the job market right now. But I do feel like there are things you can do to help position yourself better, make yourself more appealing, and make yourself more comfortable while you're job hunting, because it can be a very stressful time, a very anxious time, you feel unstable. So first thing, take time to process. I feel like losing a job can be very devastating. It can be a very emotional thing to go through, very stressful.
It's now officially been 24 hours since I've been laid off of my corporate banking job. You guys, I think yesterday I was in shock. I'm getting a little worried, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm gonna figure it out. You're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out, okay? What's meant to happen will. I think the hardest part of this is gonna be the fact that I love structure so much. Now that 8 hours of my day that I make my living off of is no longer there, I'm feeling a little lost, but that's okay. I put a little makeup on to still feel like kind of a real person. Just like, what do I do right now? I'm just gonna take today. I just kind of feel my feelings, figure out some sort of a plan, go from there.
So just because you got laid off today, don't rush into applying for 101 jobs tomorrow. Like, you could take a day, you could take a week, if you can afford it, you know, to kind of wait a little bit and really take time to process, take time to get yourself together emotionally and mentally. Like, it's totally okay to take a beat, take a moment, take a breather, feel whatever you want to feel, whether it's anger, sadness, or even relief. Some people actually didn't care about their job and they're glad they got laid off. So whatever it is, take some time to feel that before you go full on into your job hunt. Second thing, make sure you file for unemployment. Like, for real, make sure you file for unemployment. I feel like the first time I got laid off, like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I just didn't apply for unemployment until way later. I should have applied for unemployment the day of. So if you're eligible, don't hesitate to file. It's there for a reason, so use it. It's government money, use it. Number 3, take advantage of your network. If you know anybody who knows anybody who knows anybody, talk to people, like, see who might have connections to things, reach out to any past coworkers you've had, past managers maybe, see what opportunities are out there that you can get a direct connect to, because applying online, it's great and all, like, all the jobs I've ever gotten have been through online, but I've heard of a lot of people who've gotten jobs through connections and just knowing people. Sometimes it really is about who you know and not what you know. So see who could get you through the door. Don't be afraid to let people know that you're looking for a job. Like, reach out to people. Fourth thing, be open to new opportunities. So if your particular industry or field is struggling, consider pivoting, whether it's through freelancing, consulting, learning a new skill. I think layoffs sometimes push us towards the unexpected, or to like learn new things or grow in areas that we probably wouldn't have if we weren't laid off. There's a lot of things that we don't do because we just don't have time. So now that you have time, use that time wisely. Unless you're a robot, I really don't think anyone is applying for jobs 8 hours a day. And typically if you're working a 9 to 5, you're working like 8, 9, 10 hours. So obviously within those 8, 9, or 10 hours, apply for jobs. That's a given. But you can use some of that time to do other things too, like take a class or start researching something on YouTube or whatever. And who knows, whatever you learn or take on or grow in could be the start of your next career path. And even if it's not a new career path, it could be something that can position you better in the job market. And lastly, I would say to keep a positive mindset. Like, do not let this be like the end of your world. A job is really just a job. I don't want to be a broken record and keep saying that everything happens for a reason, because whether there's a reason or not, it doesn't really change how you feel in that particular moment, especially for something like this. But I will say, with every setback I've had with the layoff, it's led towards a redirection to something better in the long run. Like I said earlier, when I reflect on my history with my jobs and layoffs, I'm actually very grateful that they all happened. In the moment, they all sucked. They all felt like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? The stress, like stress. Stress was probably like the biggest emotion I was feeling at the time, and it was very hard to manage that. But like I said, if I wasn't laid off, who knows when I would have stopped working at those companies and if I ever would have landed in the position that I'm in now, which I'm very grateful that I'm in the position that I'm in now. I probably would have been much more complacent about, you know, following whatever goals I had career-wise, because I had nothing to really push me, you know? And obviously some people are very goal-oriented and some people aren't. Sometimes you really have to fall on your butt and get back up and make something happen. And sometimes whatever you make happen is gonna be a lot better than where you were at.
I got laid off from my corporate tech job last year in January. Tried to do content full-time for a few months. Got my literal dream job that actually turns out to feel like hell on earth. Now I'm back on the market searching for a new job. And this is where my intrusive thoughts, self-doubt, regret start to creep in. One thing I had to remember is that when God releases a promise to you, it doesn't come with a timeline or instructions. I also have to trust myself that I'm making the best decisions for myself with information that I have at the time. 3 out of the 4 jobs that I've had, I've gotten laid off from every single one. It was never performance based. I mean, so screw me for thinking God is trying to tell me something. I literally had my livelihood snatched away at the hands of these companies and corporations time after time after time. So I simply just cannot look back on it and regret trying to bet on myself. This is just a reminder for me and you that when God releases a promise to you or over your life, trials and tribulations that come with it will just be a part of your testimony. I'm choosing to trust that every loss is just a setup for a win that I can't even see yet. Trust that what's meant for me will never miss me. Just moving forward, scared, uncertain, sad sometimes, but still moving. If you're in a similar situation, just remember, 1, you're not alone, and 2, your testimony is still being written.
I got laid off from what I thought was the perfect job for me. I literally got the job before I even moved to Montreal. Their office was at the heart of the city. I basically felt like Canadian Carrie Bradshaw until...
I have some difficult news to share with you today. Unfortunately, your position is one of the roles being eliminated.
I was unemployed for 4 months until I got an even better job that I found out God was just preparing me for.
And just remember that a layoff does not define you, a job doesn't define you, money doesn't define you. Like, you are still your own person outside of the confines of a job. Like, yes, jobs can mean a lot. Yes, some people really value their careers, but it's not the end all be all of your life. Money comes and goes, jobs come and go. You'll be okay. You will find something else, or you will create something else. But either way, you'll be okay. So yeah, like I said, if you're in the middle of this, I feel you. I've been there with you. It's tough and it sucks, but just remember that you're a capable and talented person who is deserving of a great job at a great company that values you. And if not, this may be your sign to start something of your own. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, in the comments, I would love to hear about any of you guys' experience with it being laid off. If you've been laid off, if you're currently laid off, how have you handled it or currently handling it? That's all I have for today. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.